Hey guys, what's up? Z here, and are you always tired of your phone dying? Well, the battery in this phone is the biggest I've ever tested in my life, no joke. Welcome to my review of the Ulefone Power 2. Back in the day, the original Ulefone Power shipped over 1 million units, which was a huge success for Ulefone, and the Ulefone Power 2 has a newer MediaTek 6750 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, and a 64 gigs of storage as well. Oh, and obviously the same 6050 mAh battery as well. And there's no doubt this phone will get some insane battery lives, but let's make sure the rest of the phone is up to snuff before you make a purchase. The phone here is completely metal and is very well made. The build quality is very precise at my unit, which is gray. I was hoping for the black version, but that was out of stock. Definitely looks pretty elegant, if not a little bit uninspired. This could definitely be mistaken for a dozen other full metal devices. Oh, and one more thing I want to talk about is that the Power is definitely not a small phone. It's on the bigger side of 5.5-inch devices, and when you consider that the phone is 1 centimeter thick and 220 grams, you could kill someone with it if you wanted to. Just below the screen you find the home button with an integrated fingerprint sensor, and the 2 capacitive buttons beside it as well. No backlights here. Overall, my only complaint about the hardware is not the build quality, which is great, but it comes from the phone being really big and heavy, which is understandable, considering the battery in here is massive. So moving on to the screen, we have a 5.5-inch 1080p IPS display made by Sharp, and the screen is quite crisp and sharp as well, displaying stuff on the screen pretty well. In terms of color, it's actually decent. Colors are pretty saturated with one exception. The blacks are more gray, which I'm sure some people will not like. Max brightness tops out at around 500 nits, which is definitely not bad at all. I can see it even in the brightest sunlight here. There is also Gorilla Glass 3 protecting the screen, and it does its job pretty well. And lastly, touch response here is good as well. Moving on to the audio, the speaker is on the bottom of the phone, and the volume and quality are both not that great. It can be hard to hear someone talking if you are sitting in a car moving at high speeds, and quality wise you don't get that much bass either, but it's still good enough for basic stuff like movies, TVs, and some music as well. Here's some sample audio for you to listen to.
Hey guys, what's up? Z here, and I have the biggest tablet I've ever tested in my life, the Chewy Hi 13. The Hi 13 is the successor to the popular Hi 12 with quite a few improvements.
So obviously with a 6050 mAh battery, the battery life here is insane. I went 2 days without charging with over 9 hours of screen on time, and I had about 20% left at the end of the day. The only other phones that beat this are the Octacore K10000 and the Redmi Note 4X. I did a web browsing and a video playback test, and I got about 17 hours for web browsing and 15 hours for video playback, which actually is not that great for such a big battery, but at least the real life results are really good. We have Android 7.0 installed on the phone, and general use is fast and fluid, no complaints here. The MediaTek processor does decently well at launching and closing apps. There is some slight hesitation compared to a flagship phone, but it's not big enough to be a problem. Multitasking is also good because you have 4 gigs of RAM, so no slowdowns there. Moving on to gaming performance, it's a good thing games don't lag on this phone, even intense ones like Nova or Asphalt, but opening the games did take quite a bit longer than other flagship devices. And because the games don't lag, this phone is the perfect phone for gamers because there is no lag, and you can game for 10 hours straight if you wanted to. Or if you're still playing Pokemon Go, you will probably need fuel before the phone does. The last thing I want to talk about is the fingerprint sensor. It's fast, it's accurate, and it works well. Moving on to connectivity, the Ulefone Power 2 does get decent LTE speeds, as you can find in the speed test here, and reception is pretty decent as well. I didn't find any issues with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but one strange thing is that after every reboot, it takes about 20 seconds to lock onto satellites. Not a big issue, but one that you should probably be aware of. The back camera takes some pretty good pictures in perfect lighting conditions, but if lighting gets worse, then the pics start coming out soft and less detailed. Colors are okay, they are not overly saturated, but are not washed out either. Basically unremarkable. The camera is pretty bad in low light though, lots of noise and grain. The front facing camera is 8 megapixels and obviously takes less detail than the back camera, but it works decently well for selfies. The same issues as the rear camera apply to the front one as well. So to conclude the review, the Ulefone Power 2 has one pretty obvious weak point, the camera. Even then, it is possible to take good photos in good lighting conditions. The battery life is crazy, performance is decent, and the build quality is really nice as well, but the phone is a little big and heavy, so do be aware of that. But overall, this is a really nice device. However, before you hit the link in the description below, Do note that the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4X actually matches and beats the Ulefone Power in some areas like the camera, performance, and the battery life, but the Ulefone Power 2 is better at multitasking and has stock Android instead of MIUI, if that is something you're concerned about. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Check out both the Ulefone Power 2 and the Redmi Note 4X in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.